She is Acting Chair, Board of Directors, South African Women in ICT Forum. I would like to introduce and hand over the mic to Ms. Sonwabise Sebate, who would be talking on how does inclusion help companies from being ghosted in a millennial-driven world. Over to you, Ms. Sonwa.
Thank you so much, Saloni, and Dumelang to everybody who is with us today. As Saloni indicated, my name is Sonwabise, and I have been tasked with speaking to you on the topic of how does inclusion help companies from being ghosted in a millennial-driven world. I work for an organization called the South African Women in ICT Forum. We were established in 2014 to drive gender inclusion within the tech sector in South Africa, where currently women only participate in less than 23% margin. I thought before I get into my topic, I should really go into the definitions I have used to structure my conversation. And I will start with inclusion. My favorite definition of inclusion comes from geologists. And in geology, a particle that is distinct in composition and embedded in a raw material or a rock, that's how they define inclusion. It is when your distinct nature, your diversity is included within a structure or an organization. Being ghosted, for the sake of this conversation, I will define being ghosted in a corporate manner. Being ghosted is when you as an organization are, you are busy with campaigns, you are doing product development, but no matter what you do, all your efforts seem to go into the ether. And then lastly, millennials, as you all know, are the generation that was born between 1980 and the year 2000, depending on which scientific formula you work with. And what is a millennial-driven world? This is what it looks like. It is a world where topics that were previously considered to be taboo are now public debate. It is a world where corporates can no longer think that their employees are being shown favor by being employed by them, but rather it is the employees that bring their talent to the table, and therefore they negotiate from a point of authority. It is a world where self-worth is no longer something that is an option. It is a demand. It is a world where citizens are active fighters of justice for all, whether those that we are fighting for are alive or not. It is a world where these type of organizations should be normalized and not celebrated. And finally, it is a world where when we are calling for diversity and inclusion, we are calling for it not because you're showing us a favor or because we want handouts or tokenism, but we are calling for it because it makes economic sense. So what is the economics of inclusion? A few weeks ago, a company from South Africa that is involved in e-commerce told its employees that it would not participate in Black Lives Matter. They have no opinion and they choose to not comment. The employees, of course, took to social media, asking social media to really stand up with them. A few days later, after a successful campaign on social media, the co-CEOs of the company apologized. A little too late, however, because I and many other South Africans, millennials mostly, are no longer customers of this company. We have done what you call ghosting. We have ghosted Superbalist. Because in this day and age, the economics of inclusion don't give you the luxury to sit it out. You don't have the luxury as a corporate to tap out. A company like Standard Bank, for which this gentleman you see in front of you is the CEO, Mr. Sim Chabalala, who they themselves have a long way to go to fully transform. But even with that difficulties in their own organization, they realize that as a company, they cannot tap out on things that matter the most for their clients. Brands that understand the economics of inclusion are brands like Nando's that take their distinct value proposition and they embed themselves in the culture of the countries that they operate in. But most importantly, it's brands like Netflix who understand that they operate from a point of privilege. That if the CEO of Netflix, Mr. Reed Hastings, and I, all our data sets on par, on the same level, walked into a bank, the likelihood of me getting a bank loan would be less, far less than his. And this is a fact, because less than 3% of VC funding goes to women-owned businesses. And so they take their point and their place of privilege and they plow it back into society. They understand that they need to get their hands dirty in order for inclusion to be really successful within economics. And in the end, it doesn't just benefit us Black people. In fact, it benefits them as a company too. They understand that inclusion is not just about driving equality. Inclusion is about driving equity. Because the crux of the matter, ladies and gentlemen, is that the lack of diversity and inclusion in our economy, in our global economy, makes us lose some $1 trillion every single year. In Africa alone, $95 billion is lost annually because of a lack of gender equality. I will quote Sim Chabalala again. Inclusion in a millennial-driven world is a moral duty. And as Aviva said in the previous panel, it is a business imperative. And just simply, it's plain common sense. You see, for us millennials, when you decide to take up inclusion, you are inviting us to the party, yes, but most importantly, you are asking us to dance with you. You can touch base with me on Twitter at Sonwabise, on LinkedIn, Sonwabise Sebata. Thank you so much for listening to me. And I thank everyone who on social media contributed to my presentation. Over to you, Saloni, for any questions.
Thank you so much, Ms. Sonwabise Sebate, for this interesting and engaging, insightful speech that you mentioned. Open to questions. Anyone who wants to ask any question can type in the chat box or in Q&A. We have few minutes till that time. We can answer. I would like to read some of the comments that have come in the chat as well for Ms. Sonwabise. Thank you. Invite taken. This is from Ms. Monique Custer. She says invite taken. This is from Jude. Thanks for the great insights.
It's a pleasure.
All right. So since we do not have any questions, we'll move further. Thank you so much on behalf of MICE Question team for coming here and giving this talk. We welcome you and thank you so much. Thank you.